The left and the right sides of a boat have special names which come down to us from hundreds of years ago. Starboard is the right side because ancient sailboats had their steering board on the right side. The opposite side was called larboard because that was the board that lay against the dock when the boat was in port. Larboard probably became port as the boats got bigger and it was harder to hear the difference in a storm. The easy way to remember is port and left both have 4 letters. The most important directions while sailing have only to do with the wind. Any direction toward the wind is up, and any direction away from the wind is down. These directions are always considered as the directions the wind is coming from. If we're sailing against the wind, we call it upwind, and sailing with the wind, we call downwind. The terms used on a boat would be head up to turn more towards the wind, and fall off to turn more away from the wind. We've already established that it's impossible to sail a boat directly into the eye of the wind. In fact, there is a zone about 90 degrees into which we cannot sail without going into irons and losing control of our boat. By placing sails at various angles to the wind, however, we can sail in all of the other directions with no problem at all. If the wind's on the starboard side of the boat, we call it a starboard tack. If the wind is to port, then it's a port tack. If we change tacks by turning the boat so that the wind changes sides, we call it tacking. If we are in irons, we can't sail the boat. But if we fall off past 45 degrees to the wind, we get to a point where the sails just begin to fill, provided we have pulled them close in toward the side of the boat. This is the first of 5 points of sail. It's called close hauled because we sail with the sails hauled as close to the side of the boat as we can get them. The last point of sail is a run, with the wind astern of the boat. We normally run with the sails on opposite sides of the boat, a technique known as sailing wing and wing. If we had both sails on the same side of the boat, the jib would be blanketed by the main and could never fill with wind. When the jib is blanketed, it luffs and the wind is astern. This is how we know when we are on a run, and we can tell a run from other points of sail. The other points of sail are called reaches. A beam reach comes from the days of wooden ships. There was a wooden beam across the middle of the ship that held the 2 sides apart. Anything in line with this beam, in other words to the side of the boat, was considered a beam. So a beam reach finds the wind coming in from the side of the boat. A close reach is a little closer than a beam, and a broad reach finds the winds a little farther aft than a beam. We can go from one point of sail to another by simply turning the boat and adjusting the angle of the sails to the wind. Just remember, when you turn the boat into the wind, pull the sails in, and when you turn away from the wind, let the sails out. If at any time you feel lost about where the wind is or where your sails should be, try letting your sails out until they flutter or luff. Then pull in the sails until they stop luffing. The rule goes, when in doubt, let it out. When it luffs, pull in until it just barely stops luffing, and you will have the sails trimmed to their most efficient angle to the wind. You can also use the points of sail to estimate how far your sails should be trimmed. Close hauled is easy because the sails are hauled close into the boat. A run is easy because the sails are all the way out. For a beam reach, they're halfway out, and the other 2 reaches are in between. Okay, let's head up to close haul. Okay, we're now close hauled. Sails are pulled in, boat's heeled over. We'll stay close hauled here for a minute, pick up some speed, and then we'll start falling off to the other points of sail. Now, this is a fairly light wind day. Our wind velocity is only maybe 8 or 9 knots. But since we're going against the wind, we're picking up quite a bit more apparent wind than there is actually true wind. Okay, now we're going to fall off to a close reach. Turning away from the wind, sails going out. Sails go out at the same speed as the boat turns. If that fails you, you can always say, when in doubt, let it out. So right now, let's say we're in doubt. We don't know if we've got the sails in exactly the right place. So let's let out the main until you see it luff. Okay, there's the luff. Now when you see the luff in the main, then you pull it back in until the luff goes away. Okay, good. There, the luff went away. So now we know we have that sail trimmed exactly right. If we have a luff in the sail, there's two things we could do. Either pull in the sail or fall off. We could change the course of the boat away from the wind to fill the sail. Okay, let's try that now. Let out the sails until they luff. Both of them this time. Okay. Just a little luff. Keep it around the winch. Okay, now we're going to fall off until the luff goes away. Okay, that puts us on a broad reach now. Okay, now you can tell that it feels like the wind has gone a lot less. Much less wind than we had before. Now, Mother Nature is still blowing the same amount as she always has been today. But our apparent wind has changed because we're now going with the wind instead of against the wind. So in order to uncover the jib, what we can do is jibe the main over to the other side of the boat. Okay, Julie, why don't you do that? Just jibe the main, the other side of the boat. I'll turn the boat a little bit here to help you get the wind in it. Good, good. Let it out, George. Keep the jib going out, let it fill. Let the main out, Julie, until it's just about perpendicular to the boat. You may have to push the boom out some, too. Pull out some slack with that jibe rope. Pull yourself out some slack there. George, maybe you could give her a hand. There we go. Wing and wing. Past tense of wing and wing is wung out. Wung out. I don't think you'll ever see that in writing. There are two ways of changing the tack of a boat. If we change tacks by pointing the bow of the boat through the eye of the wind, we call that coming about. If we change tacks by pointing the stern of the boat through the eye of the wind, then that's jibing. An easy way to remember this difference is come in. Come about into the wind. To change tacks by coming about, the first command is stand by to come about. That gets your crew ready. As the boat begins to enter irons, the sails begin to luff. This is the signal for the crew to release the old working jib sheet, which is now becoming the new lazy jib sheet. While the jib is blowing over to its new location, the old lazy jib sheet is pulled in to become the new working jib sheet, and we fill away on our new tack. The main takes care of itself with little or no help from the crew. Now let's take a look at that one more time. Okay, now next we're going to come about. So first command is prepare to come about, or ready about. So the lazy jib sheet takes 2 wraps around the winch. 2 wraps around the winch. Working jib sheet, that's George, you don't do anything yet. Start heading up into the wind. And when you see the jib just begin to collapse, now, George, you take yours all the way off. Lazy sheet now becomes the working sheet. Okay, we're now on a port tack. Lazy sheet has become the working sheet. Working sheet has become the lazy sheet. For a jibe, the key is controlling the mainsail and the boom so that it doesn't come crashing across the boat and knock somebody in the head or do damage to the boat. At the command, "Prepare to jibe," the person handling the main sheet gets hold of what I refer to as the jibe rope. It is the end of the sheet portion of the block and tackle mechanism controlling the main boom. This part of the sheet gives the maximum amount of leverage in controlling the jibing boom. When the boat has turned to the point where the wind is astern, the jib will become blanketed by the main and begin to collapse. At this very crucial point, the boat is about to jibe and the captain shouts, "Jibe ho." This is sometimes pronounced jibe duck. The crewman on the main sheet hauls in on the jibe rope with 2 hands until the boom reaches the middle of the boat, and then lets the boom out on the opposite side in a controlled fashion. If done properly, there should be no clunking noise as the boom transfers smoothly across the boat under complete control. The jib moves over to the new tack in the same way as coming about. Okay, prepare to jibe, turn the wheel, and then we watch for the jib to collapse. The important thing is the main. Grab the jibe rope, jibe it over to the other side. Get the main over, then worry about the jib. Okay, now prepare to jibe again. Before we hit the rocks, jib collapses, pull in on the jibe rope, jibe over to the other side, then get the jib. Now if you've got a pretty good sized crew, you can do it all simultaneously. You don't have to do them separately.